Well, good morning. Hey, before I begin today, I just wanted to give a quick shout out and celebrate a handful of you who gave a couple weeks ago to send some students to Crew's fall retreat. So we raised about $3,000 and just to help with some scholarships, help send some students who maybe needed some help there. And if you don't know, Crew is a campus ministry on Chico State's campus and on Butte College, and they're all about knowing Jesus and making him known to the students on campus. And so it's so fun, any opportunity we get to partner with them. We love Andrew and Bonnie, who are the directors of Crew, also a part of our congregation, and it's just amazing that campus is ripe with revival, and any time we can get in and help those who are the boots on the ground, like we're going to want to help and assist them in that. And so something with that I just want to highlight before I get started here is if you're new here, we are a Foursquare church. And so being Foursquare, you might hear this phrase around here that we use called interdenominational. And simply what that means is that our church is committed to partnering with other ministries. We're committed to partnering with other denominations. We're committed to bringing God's kingdom here in Chico in whatever way that looks like. And that we wouldn't be some exclusive church, that we wouldn't set ourselves apart on a high mountaintop, that we wouldn't be competitive with other churches or other ministries, but that we would want to cooperate and we would want to partner in areas where God's already working, where we can come alongside and support the ministry of others, where God's already doing something. And so I just want to encourage us in that, just for us to be aware of that. That's part of our church's DNA, our history. Foursquare's founder, Amy Simple McPherson, has this quote that says, "In essentials, unity. In non-essentials, liberty. And in all things, charity." And that's our heritage as a church, and that's our DNA. And so if you're here a little while, you might start to experience that in ways that might be unique for you, that maybe you haven't experienced in other churches. And so I just want to thank those again who gave. Thanks for being a part of our interdenominational blood that we have as a Foursquare church and helping Crew out at Chico State this semester. And so my name is Bob Leahey. If you don't know me, I am one of the pastors here on staff at Life Church along with my wife, Lana. She's probably running around with the kids somewhere right now. And so as an associate pastor, I get to wear a lot of hats. I get to do a lot of different things. Some things I do not sign up for that I have to do, and other things I get to do that that are a joy for me. So this week, if you participated in a meet and eat group, how was that? Was it okay? You guys had a good time? That's good. If you didn't have a good time, if I didn't play matchmaker well enough, you can come, you can find me after service. I take the blame for that. I got to put all the groups together for that, and that's really fun for me. I love spreadsheets. I love putting together people in spreadsheets. And so maybe also you're a little distraught as we're coming into Halloween season that we are not doing Candy Carnival. And we have done Candy Carnival for many, many years here at Life Church, and I am partially to blame for the reason we are not doing Candy Carnival this year. And we were sitting around a table just looking at the rest of the year and planning events, and we got to Candy Carnival. My wife already has a Pinterest board of the theme that it's going to be. She's already been thinking about it for months and months, and was really excited about it. I was kind of excited about the theme. But then I had this thought and this thing that I kind of don't like about Candy Carnival. I shared it at the table. I said, the one thing I don't like about Candy Carnival is it's the only day out of the year where all my neighbors come to my front door. It's the easiest opportunity for me to connect with my neighbor right at my doorstep every Halloween, and I have this sad little bucket that says, "Take 2 pieces, please." Right? And it just dawned on me that there's like this honor system with it. Take 2 pieces, honor system. And here I am at Candy Carnival just dumping candy in kids' bags as they come through the door and stuff. And I'm like, deep down inside, I kind of wish that I'd see on my Ring camera some kid just snatch the bowl and run off with it while I'm not there. But that just kind of irked me a little bit, was that like I have my neighbors coming in the front door and I'm just not there. Do you guys remember Halloween during COVID? We had our garage door. We had candy that we had taped on our garage door because we did not want kids going into the same bowl, grabbing candies and sharing germs. And as I looked at that picture, I mean, what a time that was. As I looked at that that picture, I thought, man, why didn't we put like king-size candy bars up at the top for the adults to like grab and take home with them? But anyways, fast forward to last year. Last year, I come home from Candy Carnival, and I come through the door. I'm exhausted. We just tore everything down. All the decor that we spent lots of money on and time on just gets thrown away. And I come home, and Lana goes, Bob, you have to go to our neighbor's house. They're in their garage. They're having pozole. They're having a good time. You got to go over there. They would love to have you over there. And and first of all, I walk in, and there's candy wrappers all over the floor. And I'm like, what is happening? And Lana's like, oh, I decided that on Halloween night, our kids can have as much candy as they want. No limit. And I was like, I'm glad I was consulted on that. Thank you. I'm going to go to the neighbor's house now. Good luck putting them to bed. See ya. And so I went next door. I got to hang out with my neighbors, ate some pozole. I listened to some of my past life favorite bands with them, who I won't mention. And then as I look back on that time, that was just like a good memory for me. That was a lot of fun. And it got me thinking, I thought to myself, like, why can't I do that too? Like, is it just that my witness, the way I operate in loving others, only happens in the four walls of my church? It actually hit me that my neighbor, who doesn't even know Jesus, was being better at neighboring than I was. And so today we get to talk about the greatest commandment, loving God and loving people. And so for me, loving God and loving people is very important. It's a staple of me. But sometimes neighboring can be really complicated. I'm sure sometimes we feel this. We all have those neighbors. But I have this neighbor across the street. She's about 98 years old. And Lana and I have this very full, very busy life where we're in and out of the house. We're doing things. We got kids. We got ministry. We got extended family. My neighbor next door, my brother, takes a lot of my time. I'm just kidding, Mike. But living that way, that way of being so efficient with my calendar to squeeze all the things in that I want, leaves very little margin for neighboring. And when I pull into my garage and I see across the street the little old 98-year-old sitting there with her garage door open, she's sitting there in her walker, just sitting down. I don't even know what she's waiting for. It's like, I think she knows my schedule or something. By the way, her late husband's name was Bob as well, so it's a little strange. But recently, I went over and chatted with her, and she was trying to get rid of a lot of her recycling. She just collects recycling, and I was trying to get rid of it. And Lana and I, we are not, I'm going to confession, we are not the best Californians. We do not recycle very well. My wife is from Texas. I'm going to blame her on that. But we... So anyways, I told her, hey, we don't recycle, but there's somebody on our staff, someone on our team here who takes recycling in to get a little extra cash. So I was like, I'll take it into her. She'd appreciate that. But now it's a thing. Now the recycling and my neighbor, it's a thing. And the first time I went over, it was a big bag. But now it's like just a couple pieces. She always calls me over for a couple pieces. And so that's really cute and precious. And usually it's a bunch of Pepsi cans and then empty cranberry juices. Like big old bottles of empty cranberry. She is living her best life at 98 years old. But anyways, when I pull into my garage, there's this conflict in me that I feel. There's this thing that says, I need to get inside. I got work to finish up. I got a house that needs to be cleaned. I got kids that I got to get ready for whatever else we're doing that night. I have dinner to make. I got dishes to clean up. I got a wife to see and to be around. And maybe it's also that I'm just peopled out from the day. Anybody else work with people all day and you just come home and you just don't even want to look at them? In fact, sometimes I pull my car into the garage, and I pull it up close enough to where like you can't go around the front of the car. You have to go out and around the back. And so if my neighbor is across the street with her garage door open, and I have to go out and around the back, it's like, don't make eye contact. Go around the back and go in. And so that's kind of these situations I run into, and I feel like every time I come home and the garage door is open across the street, the Lord always instructs me to do the opposite of what I want to do. And as a parent, like, I've realized how much my kids are watching me. Your kids are watching you guys like hawks. And how many times I pull in to the garage and my son is in the back seat. And I want to be a father that teaches my son that dinner can wait 15 minutes. That I would live my life that slows down to acknowledge those that God has put directly in front of me. That I wouldn't live this life that's anxiously going and going and going. And I would say this, that we have a generation of kids who some would say are living up, they're like an anxious generation. And if my kids grow up to be anxious, I take 100% responsibility of that. Because I'm setting that example in their life. When we're trying to hurry and get out the door and I'm hurrying them along, that's the opposite of rest. That's the opposite of peace. That's the opposite of Jesus, of his presence. And so I want my kids to see a father who knows and loves his neighbors. I want them to know that the way of Jesus, it's not a call into a rat race, but it's a call into a neighborly embrace. In John Mark Comer's book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, this quote, it reads, "Hurry kills love. To love well, we must slow down enough to see people and notice needs." And so I say all that this morning just to say this, as we're thinking about Halloween, if your neighbors are out celebrating Halloween, don't hide away. Don't have your lights off. Don't shut it down, shut your house down, but to be present. Be a smiling presence. Be helpful. Be this peaceful person in your neighborhood that's going to encourage your neighbors to actually get to know you and want to know you. We can be present without celebrating. But there's something that we can celebrate, and that's the people in your neighborhood and the opportunity that Halloween brings for you to connect with them. We don't celebrate darkness, we don't celebrate death, but we do celebrate community and creativity. That's being in the world, but not of the world. And so the passage that we're going to be looking at today is in Mark. It's called the greatest commandment. And this passage comes right after Jesus. He taught about taxes. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. And then he was teaching the Sadducees about the resurrection and the power of God. And there was this preacher who preaches here often. His name's Jeff. And he once said that the Sadducees are sad you see. And I thought that was very creative. And he said they're sad you see because they didn't know the resurrection power of Jesus. And so this was a moment where the Sadducees, they kept firing questions at Jesus as if they were just firing weapons at him. And you have these groups that are questioning him. You have these groups that are just kind of observing. But they all shared this thing in common. They wanted to bring Jesus down. And so we're going to pick it up in Mark 12:28. This is the greatest commandment, and it says this. One of the teachers of religious law was standing there listening to the debate. He realized that Jesus had answered well. So he asked, of all the commandments, which is the most important? And Jesus replied, the most important commandment is this. Listen, O Israel, the Lord our God is the one and only Lord, and you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And the second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. No other commandment is greater than these. And so the question at hand in this passage is, of all the commandments, which is the greatest? And you know, these Pharisees, they had classified over 600 laws. And they had spent a lot of time discussing which laws were more important than others. Some of these religious leaders, they tried to distinguish between major and minor laws. There were other leaders who taught that all the laws were equal and that it was actually dangerous to try to say some were more important and make distinctions. And so Jesus is in this situation, and he starts to answer with this statement. He says, the most important one is this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And I read that, and I go, Jesus, what are you doing? Just go straight to the point, right? Why didn't you just give him the answer? And so when I researched what this part meant, it means Hear, O Israel, this is actually a passage from Deuteronomy 6:4. Jesus is reciting something from the Old Testament, which says, Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is your God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all of your strength. And something interesting about this is that this first part is what the Jews know as the Shema. And the Shema is the major creed in Judaism that was often recited twice daily, morning and evening, by devout Jews. And so those present at the time who were in this debate, who were here questioning Jesus, that were a part of this, they understood that statement well. And Jesus was trying to show them through their familiarity with the Shema that a relationship with the one true God was most important. And then he had their attention. He had their hook. And then he continues and says, Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. So we're going to sit here for a little bit. What does it mean to love God like this? With all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. So the mind is considered the center of a person's intellect. Okay, the soul is a person's being. It's your uniqueness, how God has crafted you. The heart is your center for desires, your center of affections. The strength is referred to as your physical capabilities. And so love for God, it's something that involves all of you. Does he have all of you? Your heart. Is he the focus of your affections? Is a relationship with God your deepest desire? Do we love what God loves? Or do we love what evil loves? Your soul. Are we willing to give God our life? Do we give him our talents, our uniqueness, our gifts that he has given to us? I was at a concert this week, and I witnessed a lot of people using their uniqueness and gifts in ways that I would say were probably unpleasing to the Lord. But that's something that he wants part of. He wants that part of us. And I would encourage you, don't waste those parts that were meant for his kingdom, that were part for his ministry on the secular and on the temporary. He wants your strength. Do we love God with our physical being? Are we serving him first through our actions? In James 1:22, it says, Do not merely listen to the word, but just do what it says. Practice what you preach. Give God your best efforts, not just your leftovers. Last week, Jeff talked a little bit about generosity and giving. Do we worship God through our giving? Are we generous to those around us? Or is our generosity the last line item in our budget that we just give God our leftovers, whatever's left over after I pay for all the things that I desire? This love that we speak about goes beyond emotion. It's this total devotion, this obedience, this alignment to every part of our lives to his will. Is God involved in your decisions, your priorities, how you spend your time, how you spend your money? When you evaluate those things in your life, do you see a love for God in them? Do you see a love for people in them as well? Now, the second part of this commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself. And so this is a horizontal love to those in your proximity. Your love for God is a vertical love, but this neighboring, loving your neighbors, is a horizontal love. In 1 John 4:7-12, it states that we love because he first loved us. That we should love one another because love comes from God. And whoever does not love does not know God. You know why? Because God is love. And it's difficult for us to operate in the loving our neighbor part if we struggle with loving God first. That's only through relationship with God that we can start, that God can start to transform the way that we see people and we view people. If we call ourselves Christians and we have this love and this affection for God, but sometimes we use the word, I hate those people. Man, I just hate them. Jesus would call you a liar. Because you can't love God and hate a brother or sister. Now, I understand if you're an introvert, whatever. That's different. I understand if being around people, it's not your favorite thing. Like, I get that, okay? I can relate to that. But that statement of hate goes beyond any form of introvert that you could be. And it might not be directed at a certain person in your life. I think oftentimes this could just be directed at people groups, political groups, religious groups, ethnic groups, maybe other churches. Maybe you've been hurt by the church. And I think we tend to hate the people that we fear. There's a lot of that going on today. But the Bible tells us that perfect love casts out fear. In fact, in Matthew 5, Jesus says, even pagans love those who love them. But God's love is one that tells us to love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us. In 1 John 4, 20 through 21, it says, whoever claims to love God yet hates a brother or sister is a liar. These are Jesus' words. These are not my words. They're in the Bible. For whoever does not love their brother or sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. And he has given us this commandment. Anyone who loves God must also love their brother and sister. Our love for God isn't proven here on Sunday mornings with how high we lift our hands. But it's how well we love people when we walk out those doors. In John 13, 34 through 35, it says, a new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. If you don't love your brother and sister, those that bear the image of Christ, those that don't even know Christ, how will others even know that you're a disciple of Christ? And hear me out. I understand there's certain relationships, there's certain situations that are abusive, that are dangerous. Loving someone like Jesus doesn't mean tolerating abuse. It doesn't mean staying in toxic situations. Healthy love includes truth, it includes safety, it includes boundaries, and God never asks you to endure harm in the name of love, okay? But don't be so bitter that you hate God's people. We are all made in God's image, whether we believe it or not. Those that are non-believers, they might not think that they were created in God's image, but you know what? The truth is they were. And when we discard people, we discard the image of God in them. And you know why I'm passionate about this? It's because I have deserved so many times to be hated by God, to be discarded by God because of my disobedience, because of my love, my struggle with sin, because of my struggles with selfishness. And daily, I am reminded of God's grace and his love in my life. And that we should all be reminded of that. And that through those reminders, it should give us the ability to extend that grace and that love to others, even those who we disagree with, those who are different than us. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. All right, you guys still with me? Okay, our neighbor isn't just the ones who are like us. Rather, they're anyone God puts in our path, I would say. It's not the people who we handpick to be a part of our lives, but those that are in our life because of maybe random proximity. Think of your work. Think of the coffee shop. Think of the school your kids get to go to. Think of your actual neighbor who maybe just moved next door, right? Think of the ones who are different and maybe a little difficult. Those that are different culturally, those that are different ethnically, those are different, have different beliefs than you. Maybe they're the people who society overlooks and looks down on. Or maybe they're just the most annoying neighbor in your neighborhood that stops you every time you come home and wants to talk politics with you. I remember one time when Lana and I, we were first married and we got our first apartment in Yuba City. Yuba City, shout out to the honkers. But when I was younger, I was much more ornery. and we had these Mormon neighbors that lived next door, and they were on mission, these two guys, and they would stop at our door, and they were persistent. We could learn a little bit from that, but they were persistent. And one day I was coming back to my apartment, and you know this story is true because I had Taco Bell in my hand, and I had a Code Red Mountain Dew in the other, and I saw them getting ready to go out on their bikes and do their thing, and I stopped them, and I said, hey, you guys have come to my door a couple of times. I know you're going out, you're going to be riding your bikes. Can I pray for you real quick? And it was really awkward. So I made it a little more awkward, and I said, here, let's hold hands. I put my Taco Bell down, right? And I just prayed for them, and I just blessed their day, and I said Jesus a lot while I was praying for them. And they walked away probably going, what the heck was that? And they didn't come to my front door again. But after that encounter, I knew their names pretty well, and anytime I would be passing by them, I would have conversations with them. I would stop them, I'd ask them how they're doing, how's your mission going, how are things? I would try to get to know them personally, right? And it was probably really uncomfortable for them, because throughout their day, I think that they were on mission. They had an agenda throughout their day, and oftentimes, probably over 90% of the time, I would say they were probably experiencing rejection constantly throughout their day. Spending all day having these theological conversations with strangers. And as I look back, I don't think in the moment I realized what I was doing, but as I look back, I think that my goal was I wanted to really know their person. I wanted to know their being. I wanted to know their soul. I wanted to know how God had wired them. I wanted to see the image of Christ in them. I didn't care about what they did. I didn't care about what they believed. I didn't care whether they were right or wrong. I didn't feel the need to tell them that they were wrong in those moments. And I think I want to encourage us as a church. It's hard to see people as image bearers of Christ when we can't look past what they believe or what they do. Preferences and what we do are not our identity. Your identity is that you are a child of God. You are a child of God. Alex, you are a child of God. Garrett, you're a child of God. But so are the people that we disagree with. A great example of this in the Bible is the story of the Good Samaritan. I encourage you all to look at that in Luke chapter 10. I mean, I don't know. The schedule always ends up, I have to preach on things like this. Like, I don't know what the deal is, but this is my third time referencing the Good Samaritan this year, I think. But this is a story of where a man is hurting on the side of the road, and a priest and Levite, the guys who you would think would stop to help him, they didn't. They walked right by. Maybe because they couldn't look past what the man did. Maybe they couldn't look past what the man believed. Maybe they had a hard time seeing God's image in him because they couldn't look past those things. But it's this Samaritan man who stops to help. A Samaritan man who's despised by the culture, that the priest would look at and be like, that's the guy who's going to help? Yet he's the one who shows God's love to this man. He saw the need. He felt compassion. And he took action. He bandaged the wounds. He carried the man to an inn, and he paid for his care. It's this beautiful story of love that crossed boundaries, and it crossed race, it crossed religions. It's just an amazing example of how to love and how to be a good neighbor. The Samaritan stopped when he was hurried. He stopped when others were hurried. He saw the man while others looked away. He touched the need. He gave his time, his money, his energy. I would also say he had good boundaries. He didn't bring the man into his home. He found a way that was helpful for both parties, that was healthy for both parties. And oftentimes I see people go to two different extremes when trying to help. They either completely ignore or they become way too involved. And there's a healthy balance here. We all have something to offer to help people. You need to know what you have to offer and find your boundaries in that. Someone Lana and I used to know who was homeless, she said, always give to those in need, even if it's just a smile. And I love that. That loving people well starts when we stop seeing interruptions as inconveniences and when we start seeing those interruptions as invitations from God. We can't love deeply when we don't love the people He's placed directly in front of us. How can we love God deeply if we can't love those that are in front of us? So how do we neighbor well? Well, I would say the first step in loving your neighbor well is to see them. Learn your neighbor's names. Write them down. Pray for them. When we come across someone who's in need, don't look away, but look towards them. Love starts with seeing. We can't care for what we don't see. So many times you go into like Safeway, for example, and there might be a homeless person sitting there, and it is really hard to make eye contact with that person because why? It makes us uncomfortable. Because it's a broken person who's in need. And we are in a hurry, and we don't have time. And sometimes when we see and we look, we feel something. And we don't like to feel things sometimes. And so I'd encourage you to do that, to look, to smile. Maybe go beyond that if you feel the Holy Spirit is calling you to act on what He's putting in front of you. Serve others well. Be available. Jesus' ministry, which was way more important than anything we got going on in our day-to-day. What Jesus was tasked with, the things He was doing, so much more important. Yet, He was constantly interrupted by people. And you know what? I think He loved it. In Galatians 5:13, it says, "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love." You've been free from sin. If you're in here and you're a believer, you've been free from sin, not to live for yourself, but to live for others, as Christ did. Freedom, you don't have freedom. Freedom isn't about not having any masters. It's about choosing the right master. Are we choosing to be our own masters? Or is Jesus the one that we call master? And if we're choosing Jesus, then there should be this light, this presence that we carry with us wherever we go, that draws people into us. We are called to be the light of the world, as Matthew 5 states, that we would have this influence over others through kindness, through service, through hospitality, that our presence would be radically different than what people experience with others. If you disappeared tomorrow, would your neighborhood even know? Would the coffee shop you frequent wonder where you've been? The Starbucks drive-thru lady on East Avenue who sings your order back to you. You guys know who I'm talking about? Yeah? If you stopped going through that drive-thru, would her singing stop? Because she has a sorrow for your presence that's missing? Would customers who come into your business miss you if you weren't present? Is our light dimmed? Is it hidden so that others can't see it? Do others notice? Are they drawn to you? When you come into the room, do they light up by your presence? I'm going to invite the worship team to come back up as we start to wind this down. Also, I want to invite our prayer team up too. I just want to encourage you, if any of this is speaking to you as we close, if you need prayer, we'll have people up here off to the sides that can pray for you. But would you guys stand? As we close, I want to read this powerful message from Jesus to the church in Ephesus. It is in Revelations 2. And it says, "I know all the things you do. I have seen your hard work your patient endurance, but I have this complaint against you. You don't love me or each other as you did at first. Let's think about that for a moment. Jesus isn't rebuking the church for doing bad things. He's saying you're busy doing good things, but you've lost your first love. You're working for me, but you have forgotten about me. You've lost that love that once spilled over into love for others. How are we doing, church? Have we drifted from our first love? When we slow down, do we feel God's presence on us? Have we gotten so busy, so efficient with our calendars, so caught up in the next thing to come that we stopped seeing the people that God has put right in front of us? The people that we're called and commanded to love? Maybe you've been living this anxious, hurried, stretched thin, stressed out life. I want to encourage you to slow down. We have a pursuit night. Brian talked about that during announcements a little bit on October 23rd. I would just encourage you to be there. Come, spend time in worship on your knees, pursuing Jesus, chasing after your first love, remembering what it was like to feel that overwhelming love, that joy, that grace from our Savior. I think it's something that we've forgotten. And I say that because it shows itself in our lack of love to others. Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And then he said, love your neighbor as yourself. That is not two separate commands. The word tells us that they are equally important. It's one heartbeat with two rhythms. So let us not miss what our first love has commanded us to do, and that's to love God and to love people. Amen.